This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, today is July 5th, and this is the July 5th, 2022 Public Works Committee. I'm Bill O'Brien, acting chairman in place of vacationing Councilman Poisson. Calling the meeting to order at 5:04 p.m. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of June 7th?
Motion to approve,
I'll second.
since it's just the two of us.
All in favor? Any discussion? And I am in favor, so all in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. And thank you, Renee.
I sent the report overlaid. I missed it last week, but, pretty much ongoing projects and other things. I mean, June was the month from hell with coming off Memorial Day Parade, going into Main Street Festival, and then to the gazillion field days and graduations and high school graduations, grad banner projects and fireworks. We've been extremely busy, also trying to get the capital plan across the finish line. So that's what we've been up to. So if you have any specific questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them on that. It's just a lot going on.
I have a question, Renee. Is there an update for the tennis courts for Longbrook? Is there any progress at all?
So what's going on with the tennis courts is that the vendor, while he was waiting for us to kind of get all of our ducks in a row, took another job. So now, he just couldn't sit there and wait for us to come through. So he's got the materials on order. He's doing his other job, and then we are next in line after that. So that is why we are delayed, and the project has not started.
Okay.
Okay, that makes sense. That's not going to affect the price at all, right?
No, I mean, we're still working out the pricing. We're working on the credits from the new layout, because there are supposed to be credits coming back. And then once we see what those are and whatever the going rate is, we haven't seen an increase. He doesn't believe there's going to be one that should send it in for a change order. The credit should more than cover any increase in the cost of goods right now.
Okay. That's good. I don't have any questions. I mean, I know paving's ongoing.
I do have a question, Laura, if you don't have any other questions.
Go ahead.
Renee, I'm just asking, the sidewalks that Councilwoman Rice had brought up, is there an update on that?
So those sidewalks, we are working on getting the vendor back in. We did have the vendor in and we were slated to go, but Burns was doing a gas line replacement. So we couldn't get access, and that's why I assumed it was done, because we did have them slated. They showed up. Burns was there that day. So then we couldn't do it because Burns was in the way. Then we couldn't do it because school was letting out and we didn't want the kids to have to walk in the street to go around it. And then that contractor took other work elsewhere, didn't want to wait around for us. So now we are pressuring the contractor to come back, and hopefully it will be soon. But that is what caused us to be delayed. Otherwise, the project would have been done. We did not know about the gas line until after we arranged to have the sidewalk done, and then ran into them.
Thank you. And then I'm just looking at the list that you had sent out. What is the vandalism in the schools? Well, which schools?
Pick a school, any school. It's in Flood, mainly Flood, Worcester, Bunnell, and Stratford. It's an ongoing problem. The latest one was ripping sinks off the wall and exposing the pipe that was literally shooting water all over the place. It's just a constant. Well, now that kids are out of school, it has stopped, obviously, but it was a constant problem in the schools. And, we have supplied work orders to your building needs committee every month. And if you look through those, you'll see some of the, we're tracking, like creating a work order for every bit of vandalism that goes on. But it could be anything from graffiti on the bathroom walls to mostly ripping the sinks and toilets off the walls. That seems to be the favorite thing to do, probably because bathrooms are not monitored like hallways and stuff are. But that's what we're saying.
So this is something that we bring up a lot in our Board of Ed liaison meetings. Bill knows, he's been a part of them, and because it's costing the schools, it's a line item, right, Renee, that you mentioned. It's a line item in the Board of Ed budget for
Yeah. So it's actually a line item in our general operating budget. If you look at the building maintenance organization, that 01403, if you go down, you see two separate lines for building materials, one for BOE and one for the town. And so, that has been completely, depleted for a lot of other things, but that has put a strain on us besides the labor to fix it. When the guys are constantly there fixing those things, they're not doing anything else, meaning there are, 70 other buildings that aren't getting looked at and maintained because we're focused always on the schools and fixing those problems.
So I think what we're trying to do is get a message out to parents somehow through either the Board of Ed elected officials or through the superintendent, maybe with their cooperation, just to let parents know what their kids are doing during the day. I don't know.
Or, holding the kids accountable. Like if they find kids who are doing this, and I find it hard to believe that we don't know which kid because they are posting it on social media. And so I gotta believe they know who's doing this and charging the parents back.
I agree.
That's
Yep.
what should happen.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to ask for a message to go out to all the parents with something similar to that, with the cooperation, hopefully, of our superintendent.
Can I ask a follow-up question, Renee? Now that school's out, have we had vandalism happening in town, like outside of school property?
We haven't had any reports, but we have experienced vandalism of destruction of the bathrooms, like at Longbrook, the stone bathrooms. We've had that in the past. We haven't experienced any just yet. We're hopeful that maybe phase has passed. Maybe there's a new one out there of something else less destructive that these kids are focused on. Hopefully it's learning a new TikTok dance, which is harmless.
Well, they did destroy all the trees. Did they not destroy the brand new trees that were just planted?
Oh, they did. Yeah. At Hyde Park, they did.
Park. Yeah.
They did.
So that's why, when they talk about putting money into these parks, they just like totally took the tree and stripped it and pretty much ripped branches off or whatever. They're brand new trees, trying to plant them, and now they're dead. So
at Hyde Park, or was it Clover or
No,
Juliet?
at Hyde Park. Hyde Park, I think they did at least 3 of the trees. They damaged at least 3 trees, and I believe some of them were not be able to be saved.
Right. So we're putting money into beautification, and everything's getting vandalized. So I don't know.
So Renee, as far as we know, administrators have not identified any offenders in these school issues?
No, and we're not, it's not our, we're not looking for them. I had brought this up to the superintendent back before the mayor was being sworn in, that I think we need to sit down and come up with a plan, because back then we were seeing a lot of vandalism and consistent, and he just didn't get anything set up,
Well, for me, it's before we go adding new trees, new pavilions, new tables, new benches, we need to figure out how we're going to keep these things from getting damaged, because there's no sense in pouring money into it to just have it all ripped apart.
And I know everybody thinks here the answer is putting cameras there. The problem is the cameras at night are never going to identify a kid in a hoodie. You're not going to figure out who it is, and the other kids are not going to snitch on them. So, and then it's paying somebody and it's paying a service for the camera. So you're just spending more money to try and hopefully dissuade it. And 9 times out of 10, you're not going to catch them. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, I mean, I've had cars do damage and I'm on that camera looking at it, and it just always, it's at the right point where the camera can't catch the license plate, or it's too dark and grainy and you can't even see the person. It's not like close enough. I mean, it's not sitting on top of where exactly the vandalism is going on. So it's pretty sad.
It is sad. I wish we had more things for, the youth to be able to do. But I think that's a different conversation, a bigger conversation. But
And I agree with you, but we did come up with things for the kids to do at Birdseye. And they opened up the gym for now, gym time for that high school age. And right out of the gate, we had a couple of major fights. Kids purposely coming to that area to engage into a fight or beat the living daylights out of somebody who was attending that. I mean, I think we are doing our best and we're coming up with creative things. And even at that, it's just crazy. And we had a kid who at Birdseye just fell off the awning because he thought, oh, it'd be fun to try and climb up it and fall. He fell off and ended up injuring himself. Like, it's crazy. Kids just, there's no discipline at home. There's no regard for anybody else's property.
Mhm.
Well, hopefully the Stratford PAL and the police engagement program will help down the road. But real quick, Renee, remember I mentioned the keys for the museum. Did you say I would have to pick those up at Bradley's?
No, we're going to work on getting them for you. We'll
Okay.
get them for you.
All right. And then Peck's Pond access. If somebody like the Stratford Old Timers wants to do a cleanup there, can they do that?
At where, I'm sorry?
The Peck's Pond access, at public access across from the pond on the river.
Yeah, I think they could go ahead and do it anytime they want. We love it.
Okay.
Anything to keep up
And
because
then,
it's tough.
okay. And then big piles of supplies at Chapel and Worcester. That's for the roof and solar?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thanks. All right. If there's nothing else, is John Casey with us?
Thank you, Renee.
thank you.
Thanks for that. Okay, John, you're up to bat.
Again, we sent out the report last Friday, and there's no action items tonight, so I could go through some of the key points. The coastal resiliency, the study that's being done by the CERCA should be moving forward this summer. Keep that in mind. We'll be reporting back actually on many of these items, probably more information at a later date. But that work has started, and the geotechnical work at the berms that we are proposing north and south of the treatment plant is completed. So we'll be getting a geotechnical report there to see if there's any issues that would prevent or make more difficult to install the berms and connect them to the treatment plant flood protection wall. The Circle Drive Bridge, the Inland Wetland Commission has approved that permit request, so we'll be now moving forward to get our permit submitted for the DEP and the Army Corps. Surf Avenue culvert, just to bring that up again, recall that we're proposing a flood cutoff wall there that will stop the coastal flooding of Surf Avenue during, periods of abnormally high tide, or even at high tide sometimes. And the DOT is having an issue with how we're tying that into the I-95 embankment. They are basically saying we can't tie into the I-95 embankment. So we're proposing to lengthen that wall, go underneath the bridge, and tie it into high ground south of I-95. So we'll be meeting with DOT to review that request probably this month. More to report, after we meet with DOT, because that's an important element. We need DOT to support the project, or else we won't be able to do that work. So that's pending. Old Spring Road culvert is nearly complete. The bar rack should be going in this week. I thought it might go in today, but I heard they weren't there today. But that will complete the heavy work there. Then we'll do final paving and landscaping, come back in this fall and retouch the landscaping, and we should be 100% done. The MS4 permit, we talked about the Bunnell underground storage last month. I did get today the Baldwin Center underground storage, which will be in the rear yard of the Perry House property. So that I haven't reviewed yet, but we've received that. The plan there will be to bid this out in early fall and construct some of the work at Perry House after their fall programs are complete, and then probably do some work up at Bunnell, the north parking lot, and then come back and do the Bunnell underground storage in the spring, just before we're ready to do the parking lot paving. So that's our plan for implementing that project. Tanner's Brook, we had a meeting with Weston Sampson. We've asked them to provide some additional analysis before we present their findings to you. So this summer we'll have a Tanner's Brook report in some detail about what the benefits would be of widening the stream and straightening the stream or not straightening the stream, or what those costs would be, and what the environmental benefits would be, and what the flood storage benefits would be. So that's pending. The Fifth Avenue tie gate, we had a meeting with the engineer. They are working on that project this month. So by next month, we should have a draft design and a draft DEP application for submittal. And the Raybestos project, you probably will start to see more and more activity, particularly at Fry Pond Lane and East Main Street, as the contractor starts to implement his traffic control to work on the culvert that they're installing from the Raybestos Field to the end of Avery Street. The contractor there is JJ Brennan, is doing the culvert installation. So you might see Brennan equipment in preparation for that work.
Hey, John, can you remind us where does Tanner's Brook run?
Exactly what I was going to
Yeah.
ask. Exactly.
I'm sorry. Tanner's Brook is that stream that is just south of the west campus of Stratford High School. So
Okay.
California Street.
yeah, it runs south to the railroad, and then it runs actually all the way through the center of town and discharges at Ferry Creek. But we're just studying that area south of the high school.
And Bruce Brook runs through St. Michael Cemetery, right?
Yeah, it's on the edge of St. Michael Cemetery, right on the border of the city line of Bridgeport.
Right. Several years ago, I was over there with Rich Fredette. We were looking at it, and the debris and litter was just unbelievable through there. Is it still real bad?
Litter's bad everywhere. Oh my God.
Yeah, Bruce Brook is a long, stream. It comes all the way from north of Bunnell High School, and it does collect quite a bit of trash and debris, along the route. It's a big watershed, and there's lots of potential for, yard waste and litter that's on the street to get into the catch basins and get into the stream. Not to mention illegal dumping that also happens at certain points along the stream. That's I think that'd be part of what Kelly Kerrigan will be looking at with the grant that she's got to do watershed study for Bruce Brook.
Mhm. Ask her about Tanner's.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Then I should also mention the South End drainage study. The council approved some funds for beginning that study. And in the meantime, we've met with the DEP to talk about the potential to put stormwater pump stations that would help create positive drainage from that low-lying flat area of the south end of town. Because we need to really know if DEP would be on board with that concept before we invest a lot of time and money trying to study where those stations would be, how big they would cost, where they would actually be sited, and do a planning study surrounding that concept as the solution to the drainage there. So we are told this month that they're going to look at that and get back to us. Kind of just either they're going to say there's no way that would ever fly with them getting a permit, or we would entertain that concept. So proceed with your study, and we'll be involved with the study as it goes along.
So what happens if they say no?
Well, if they tell us up front that there's no way they would allow pump stations to pump stormwater to Long Island Sound or the Great Meadows,
Mhm.
Then I think we would gear the study to, I think we would look at that as an alternative, but we would definitely gear the study to see what alternative there is to that. If there is an alternative.
That's what I'm thinking, if there's an alternative.
I don't mean to be naive, but I thought that in the allotment through the CIP for the funding for the South End drainage relief mitigation was that the team of engineers that the town ends up hiring would assess the situation and then proceed with whatever their recommendation is, not that there was potentially already a recommendation via DEEP or approved by DEEP. And then we would go forward.
Nothing will be approved by DEEP. We are just wanting to hear from them, because I've heard from them in the past that they would not allow that to happen. And if, it's kind of fruitless to spend a lot of time studying something that the DEP is going to say that it will not be allowed.
So you're saying that the DEP would not allow pump stations?
To discharge to the Great
To
Meadows or Long Island Sound. So, that but I should say that when we met, they were not saying that, and they said they would give it some good attention and give us feedback. So we need that just so we can gear the scope of the study.
Okay.
So thanks, John. Okay, next regular meeting is scheduled for Monday, August 1st at 5 p.m. I can wait to hear if that is going to go virtual, live, or not at all. Anybody have any new business? If not,
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, adjourned at 5:28 p.m. Thanks, everybody.